Welcome into the most electric podcast in sports betting entertainment. My name is Tanner Kern, certified G, bona fide stud, and you can't teach that. This right here next to me, Grant Mitchell, his Virginia Tech women's Hokies are doing the hokey pokey to the Final Four, and he's very happy today because of that, and you can't teach that. Bada boom, man of the people in the room, how you doing? Welcome to Ride the Line.
Welcome to Ride the Line. Welcome to all the riders out there who are tuning in with us. Tanner, great way to start it. Like you said, my Virginia Tech Hokies, they danced their way into the Final Four. But I got to say, whichever social media intern was on that account and tweeted that video, was it from the official March Madness account, wherever it was?
Yeah.
It gave me nightmares. That was terrible to watch.
They should be fired. Like, you want women's sports to be viewed in like a equal light to men's sports, and you're tweeting out a hokey pokey video of kids doing the hokey pokey on the playground with like a fake Virginia Tech logo. Like, imagine the men's account tweeting that out.
And not only that, though, it was the way they were they weren't singing the hokey pokey, they were chanting like it was a ritual. It was terrible. It was actually frightening.
Yeah, it was not a good video, not a good look for women's sports, but still, Virginia Tech women's Hokies are going to the Final Four. Congrats about that. The UConn Huskies are not there in the women's Final Four, but we're there in the men's Final Four, which is all I care about, because my UConn Huskies, they're my Huskies, Grant. They're not your
They're not, Tanner. You ditched them. You left them on the side of the road. I picked them up.
No, I didn't. I never said that. I said that like in the Big East tournament. I was not high on the UConn Huskies. And then I said they need to show me some grit. And they finally did. And now they have grit. And now they're back on my side. So that's why I think of the UConn Huskies.
I mean, we are going to get all into the UConn Huskies. But first, we're going to talk about the Elite Eight in general, because what a round of college basketball we saw. These games have been so entertaining, and believe it or not, they've been entertaining with only one game going to overtime. It kind of blew my mind when I sat back and thought about it, because whenever I think of March Madness, I think of like every game goes to overtime because it's so close. It's not been the case, but these have still been some great games, and we're going to go in time order from the last round. So we are going to start off with San Diego State going against Creighton. Now, San Diego State won that game 57-56. Darion Trammell gets fouled by Ryan Nembhard with just over a second left, goes to the free throw line, misses the first free throw. You think, oh my goodness, he's a college kid. Tanner, what was the first episode of Ride the Line about? Kids can't make free throws. But he calmly walks up, sinks the second one. Creighton tries to throw a full court inbounds pass, clangs off the hands of Kaluma. Balls goes out of play. SDSU wins that game 57-56. They're going to the first Final Four in school history. What was your biggest takeaway from that game?
Their defense in the second half was relentless. I think they gave up like 22 or 24 points in the second half. It was amazing to watch. First of all, we have the mid-major Super Bowl happening this weekend. I'm very excited about that. But this is a game that Creighton blew. They literally said, hey, San Diego State, you guys go win the game. And we saw that in every game. K-State said to FAU, you guys go win the game. We don't want to win it. We don't want to win it. None of these teams wanted to go out and win, and that's why we have the mid-major Super Bowl coming up. But you got to give credit to San Diego State because of how relentless they were on defense. I believe that it was a foul. The hand was on the hip. It was a foul. It changed his momentum in the air. And for all the people saying, like, you can't call it in that situation, that's a problem, because you got to call the game the same way throughout the entire game. When it gets down to the final minute, you're still going to call the same foul that you would call in the first minute of the game. So it's sad how it ended, because I had Creighton winning that game and I wanted to win some money. But still, when I look at it, San Diego State earned it because of how they played in the second half, even though Creighton said, hey, take the game because we don't want to win it.
Tanner, you are preaching. That is a foul 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 60 minutes within the hours, 60 seconds within the minute. It's a foul. He's going up for a floater. Nembhard has his hand on his hip. He's pushing out to the side and he's pushing down. You can see his legs kick out when he's in the middle of the shot. It wasn't some huge some weird call. It wasn't some phantom call that's totally 50-50. That is a foul. There's nothing you can do about it. And it wasn't a soft foul either. It was a foul. Now, I just have a problem with people saying, like, let's look at the Super Bowl, Tanner. Do you remember how Juju was held and everybody was disappointed that that's how the game ended?
I didn't like that call. I didn't like that call.
Okay, well,
I did not like that call. This is different. This is totally different. I didn't like that call in that situation. That was not a call that needed to be made.
Okay, well, my point is, if there's a foul or in the NFL a penalty, you call it. You call the game how it's meant to be officiated. I understand swallowing the whistle and letting them play to an extent. Like if there's a slight bit of a moving screen at the end of the game, or players are fighting for the rebound, something like that. You can't put your arm on a shooter while they're shooting and push them out of where they're intending to go. So I have no problem with it. I think it was absolutely a foul. I was very surprised that Tramel missed the first one, and I thought he was going to miss the second one, but he made that one and clutched up. My biggest thing for you, it was definitely San Diego State's defense, but beyond that, it was San Diego State's three-point defense. Creighton has such a great ability, or a spread of ability even, because all of their players contribute. They can go inside. They can use their great ball movement to find open shooters. They can thrive out of isolation, especially with Nembhard and Shireman. But they couldn't do any of that against San Diego State. They shot 2 of 17 from 3. They were totally stifled from the perimeter. It was just a defensive masterclass. And the reason that San Diego State won, their defense allowed them to get back into the game. I mean, they were never out of it, but it allowed them to tie the score back up. But the reason they won was not just because of their defense. It was because they started finally hitting consistent mid-range jumpers. Their three ball still wasn't falling, but they were getting good looks in the low post. They were pulling up, hitting some mid-range shots. That was the difference for them, and it's what they've been lacking throughout this season, because even though they're a very good team top to bottom, you always point to offense as their weak spot. If they can go forward and make those clutch shots at the end of the game when they need to, then they're going to win the next game and they're going to go to the national championship. That's all it is.
Yeah, I mean, their defense is elite. It's top 6, I think, top 6 in KenPom. So when you look at that, they've been very impressive on defense. Creighton only shot 11.8% from the three-point line. This is a team that's been able to score all season consistently. That's why they're in this spot. And the fact that they came out and laid an egg in the second half was not good at all. You got to credit San Diego State, but Creighton went into the locker room with control of that game at the half. So San Diego State made shots. They still didn't score that many points, so it'll be interesting to see how they handle FAU, who can score, and to also beat some really good defensive teams in this tournament like Tennessee. So let's transition to that game, Grant. FAU beats Kansas State. I was at MSG for this game, and it was the most horrendous game to watch. First of all, it was terrible. Really? No, it was fun to watch. As a Kansas State bettor, I should say. It was a great game. As a Kansas State bettor, it was an amazing game. But it looked like Kansas State was going to run away with it. Then they said, hey, FAU, you guys want to go to the mid-major Super Bowl, so why don't you win the game? We look at it. Kansas State had leads multiple times. They were horrendous from the free throw line. That was the biggest indication that I'm like, this game's not going to go well. Even when they had like a 7-8 point lead, I'm like, they're going to blow this lead because they are terrible from the free throw line. I think they shot like 50-60%. It was bad. Everyone was missing. The only person who wasn't missing was Marquise Noel. And then some of the shot selections that even he had, he was trying to drive on Vladislav Golden. Like, you're not going to do that. The man's 7 foot tall. You are literally the size of a peanut M&M. Literally the size of a damn peanut M&M. You think you're going to be able to shoot the ball over him? So there was just so many issues there. They didn't pass the ball well. FAU was just relentless. They stayed in the game. They made all their shots. And that's what happened. Unfortunately.
When you're somebody who likes to attack the basket, from the time you hit, let's say, elementary school, they teach you want to go right into the defender's body, especially if they're a shot blocker, because that eliminates their ability to contest. That doesn't apply if you're a 5'8" Marquise Noel going against a 7'1" Vladislav Golden. Like you said, the guy was amazing in this tournament. He's been the most electrifying player in the tournament, most likely the best player in this tournament so far. Let's leave that there.
He was great in the game.
We have to. What? Go ahead.
He was great in the game. I mean, I think he had 30 points and 12 assists in that game. Like, he was phenomenal. He was their only offense. So I don't want to pick on him too much, but there were moments when he tried, consistent moments. Like, he tried to drive more than he should have over Vladislav Golden and just got rejected. And then he would come down and try to make a pass at the last minute, and guys weren't ready or they fumbled the bag. Like, it just was not a good showing by Kansas State.
Tanner, we're in the same boat here. I was giving him his flowers because he was so great, and you could tell Kansas State needed him to do everything. That's why he looked worse than he probably should have. He had the great game, 30 points, 12 assists, 5 steals, but he still didn't look that great because everybody was just waiting for him to do something. So keep it in the box over here on the left, how great he was in the tournament. We have to open the other box, which was his ill-advised shot selection. All these step-back threes, which I didn't see him make a single one of those step-back logo threes. I liked how he came off the high screen and was able to pull up for not a floater, but like a running 3-point. He was money from those, but those weird shots. The last shot where he goes again at Golden, tries to go for a Harlem Globetrotters reverse layup, spin it off the top of the backboard into the basket. He was just trying to do too much. And again, it's almost like because his team needed him to, because Keontae Johnson, the leading scorer, fouled out. David Gasson, who was huge on both ends in the Michigan State game, he fouled out. People were just waiting around for him to do stuff. But credit to those FAU guys that they recognized that and they completely exploited it in that second half. And that's how they were able to fuel that comeback.
Yeah, and I love what they did at the end of the game. I mean, I didn't love it as a Kansas State bettor, but they put Golden for the last shot on. They had him hang out at the half court line, and they made him just follow Marquise Noel once he crossed the half court line, and he's not making a three over him. There's no way. There's like no chance. So they did a really good job shutting him down, and K-State did not adjust one bit because Marquise Noel was still coming out and still trying to drive in the second half, and it was not pretty. It was actually sad. It was sad because he was so good, but he just tried to do too much, and that's not necessarily his fault. It's the fault of Kansas State's other players for staying in Kansas and not actually showing up mentally to prepare for a basketball game in New York City.
I think you got that completely spot on, to be honest. Going into this game, Kansas State was one of the, if not the most mentally resilient teams in that tournament. A lot of it was from Marquise Noel. But lest we forget, Ishmael Massoud came off the bench and had 15 points in that overtime game against Michigan State. Again, David Gasson, 11 points. That's 26 points from two guys off the bench. You were getting Hawkins and all these other guys to contribute with big buckets. Keontae Johnson, again, the leading scorer, had that fake argue with the coach, no look alley-oop catch. It was awesome. All those guys were great.
He was off. I mean,
he was terrible.
Missing foul shots. Every time he went to the line, I think he missed the first one. It was disgusting. Like, a team from the Big 12 in that spot should not shoot 60% or 55%, whatever. I kept looking up at the damn scoreboard at MSG, and it just kept like tanking their free throw percentage. And I tried to block it out. But it was, if you're Kansas State, you should be kicking yourself because you forced FAU to turn the ball over like 22 times and you still didn't win the game.
And FAU has not been making three-pointers this entire tournament. With how explosive Kansas State, the way they've been playing in this tournament, it's not just that they're scoring. It's the manner in which they're scoring. It's electrifying. It's the highlight assists. It's the long-range threes. It's the slam dunks. It's stealing the ball, getting out in transition, getting easy buckets. Those are demoralizing for opponents. And if your opponent, FAU, can't make threes, even though 2 points is the same as 2 points, you've got so much momentum going behind you. And they still couldn't take advantage of that. It was almost mind-blowing for me to watch, and not to discredit FAU. I just didn't think this was the game for them. I didn't think this was the matchup. I didn't think Kansas State was the team to mess with how they'd been coming from behind, how much confidence they had. They've got a lot of New York guys on their team, and Marquise Noel being the most amazing player in the tournament. I just can't believe FAU won that game, but they totally deserve to. Don't get me wrong, because they executed every time they needed to.
Well, if you turn the ball over 22 times and you still find a way to win the game, and that's impressive. You got to give them credit. They did dominate on the offensive glass, which was very demoralizing for me as a Kansas State bettor, watching them just grab rebound after rebound to get second chance after second chance. Because if K-State probably goes in, if they get a little more contribution from Johnson, they stay out of foul trouble like they did early in the second half. The first half, they were in foul trouble immediately. In the second half, it got a little better there. But by that point, in the end of the game, you're going to have guys foul out. So if you got a little more contribution from Johnson, if you just would have made a few more shots, Marquise Noel doesn't drive as much, and you get, 4 or 5 more offensive rebounds, because I think they're out rebounded like 12-5 in that range. You get three or four more, like make it even. You win that game easily. So it's sad.
It is sad. And as good as Noel was, again, the 30, 12, and 5, Golden, I think we both agree, was the best player in that game. He had 14 points, 13 boards. He was controlling the lane, and I know Noel still had some great buckets, but you forced him to go 8 of 21. A lot of that was because of how well you closed off the lane, and his teammates weren't able to contribute. Again, I think that's credit to Golden. Obviously, the other perimeter players for putting pressure on the Kansas State guys, but Golden was my MVP of that game.
K-State got bitched, like in the paint. They were just dominated. It wasn't. K-State didn't have anyone that can compete with Golden. And I saw FDU give Golden a run. They were relentless getting after him. They attacked him. They swarmed him with the basketball. Kansas State said, hey, we don't want it. We don't want any of you. We don't want any of your 7-foot Russian body. That's what they said.
Moving forward, Tanner, real quick, we're going to talk about FAU's next game as well, but I just want to tell everybody out there, keep an eye on Elijah Martin, because when I look at him, I see a legitimate NBA player. I know you probably don't recognize his name because most people out there aren't watching FAU games. He's got an NBA body. I like his blend of skill set and his athleticism. And I like the way that he plays the game. He's engaged on offense and defense. I think he's versatile. I think he's got an NBA future. Another team, though, Tanner, the key word, we're going to make this the word of the day, bitched. UConn bitched Gonzaga. That was horrible to watch. I mean, I didn't realize that the national networks could air murder on public television. Kid UConn outscored them 43-22 in the second half. Drew Timme, we're not going to be the team to F this up. We've made it to the Sweet 16 8 years in a row. Still searching for the first national championship. 12 points, 10 rebounds, complete non-factor against Adama Sanogo, 30-something% from the field. This one was just brutal. That's what it was. It was brutality. It was public brutality.
How many times have I said it, Grant? How many times do I have to say it? And every time I post a clip of this, I get reamed for it. Houston is not good at basketball and Gonzaga is not good at basketball. These teams aren't good because I classify good, and people take this too literally. Obviously, they're in the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight. They're making runs. But I classify good as a team that's able to go out, finish the job. Neither team can finish. Gonzaga has never been able to finish, quite frankly. They're not a good basketball program because this is what happened against UConn. They were absolutely dominated. They didn't show up. They looked flustered. They couldn't answer. They have absolutely no grit. And that's what I've said about them the entire time. So I wasn't shocked. I'm going to be honest. I really wasn't shocked. I saw Charles Barkley on the damn TV broadcast saying this is Gonzaga's game to win, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not, because UConn dominated St. Mary's and Gonzaga has pretty much struggled with St. Mary's every time they've played. Now, obviously, they got the best of them one time, but it wasn't even close to what UConn did to them in this spot on national television.
Interestingly enough, St. Mary's has played UConn tighter than anyone in this tournament, but that's not saying much because
they're still blown out.
They beat them by 15 points.
Yeah.
Their other wins are by 23, 24, and most recently 28 points. UConn, let's just go ahead and get this in there. UConn is the betting favorite to win it all. It's kind of not even close. I'm getting these odds from Caesars Sportsbook. Connecticut is minus 125 to win it all. What do you know? Just take a guess off the top of your head. What do you think the odds for the second most likely team are?
It's like plus 300 or 400.
Plus
I know Miami's 400.
Now, on Caesars, we've got UConn minus 125, San Diego State plus 400, Miami plus 450, FAU plus 625. So based on implied probability, that's about a 55% chance that UConn is going to win the national title. So they're saying UConn is more likely than the three other teams left standing. By the way, Caesars Sportsbook, if you want to get yourself $1,250 worth of first bet insurance, you can go over to WSN, get yourself a Caesars promo code. How that deal works is if you place your first bet anywhere up to $1,250, if that bet misses, Caesars will refund you with bet credits equal to the amount that you risked. You also get 1,000 Caesars tier credits and rewards credits, which can be redeemed for prizes at real-life Caesars establishments. So go on over to WSN, the World Sports Network, get yourself a Caesar promo code, and according to them, drop money on UConn because they are the betting favorite to win it all. Let's go back and key in on this game, though. One thing that was very interesting for me is even though Timme was limited, 12-10, you look at Adama Sanogo's box score. He's at 10-10. You think, wow, maybe this was a game where either both bigs were off their game, or maybe there was so much attention paid to them that they didn't do much, or maybe they canceled each other out. It's not the case. I know he only had 10-10, but Sanogo ran that game. He also had 6 assists, which for a 6'10" big man who is not like, he's not like a Jokic. He's not a point center. He's an actual big man. He's a big man. To get 6 assists really just kept the offense flowing. He completely took Timme out of that game, and Gonzaga really just had no answers once Timme couldn't get it going.
Well, Gonzaga had probably the most stupidest. Is that even a word? Stupidest?
It is now.
Okay, that's a word now. Okay, cool. They had the stupidest strategy by double teaming Sanogo in the middle of the paint, and it just led wide open people right down on the baseline for easy layups. That's why he had a career high in assists. He's never an assist guy. He never passes the ball. It's just get it into him in the paint, let him be physical, and let him grab rebounds. This was a terrible game from Gonzaga. This was a game where like Mark Few should go back and probably question what he does for a living, honestly.
Yeah, I think that's a good analysis of it, because Mark Few, first of all, this is where I have this mental debate with myself sometimes. I don't know if I've ever aired it publicly. I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying that Mark Few is not an intelligent basketball coach, but I do wonder with these mid and even low major programs. You were just talking about Houston and Gonzaga, right? That's the modern example, but you can take this back however far you want. These mid and low major teams that end up getting really good seeds in March Madness and have these great national reputations, and they're perennial top 3, top 4 seeds in March Madness, they go on these 5-10 year stretches where they seem to come up short in March Madness. How much of that is on the coach's shoulders? How much of it is on the lack of experience in big games? What do you think? Because Mark Few, I agree. I think that game was a lot having to do with his misfires with the schematics, but I still don't think he's the problem at Gonzaga.
It's all on Mark Few. It's on the coach. It's never on the players. The coach is the one who needs to figure it out. Okay, I've been to this many Elite Eights. I've been to this many big games. They've played in big games. These guys get big games every single year. They're on ESPN primetime. They play in those big games early in the season. They need to figure out how to get over the hump. And I don't think he can do that, because if he could, he'd be able to by now. He's built a program. He's built a place that people want to come and play basketball at, but he still cannot win the big game. And I think, personally, going back to this whole NCAA tournament seeding, Houston should not have a 1 seed. Gonzaga should not have a 1 seed. Teams that come from these conferences should not have high seeds because they don't play anyone throughout the year. It's the same thing as TCU in the national championship game last year. TCU was absolutely obliterated by the University of Georgia. There was a reason for that, because TCU really wasn't that good.
But TCU won a game in the semifinals, so like there's a trade-off to that.
Got lucky. They beat Michigan and got lucky to beat Michigan. They shouldn't even be, because I'll tell you what, Alabama would have put up a much better fight against Georgia than TCU. Like these teams, if you're in one of these like mid-major conferences like Houston, you can't lose one game. You need to win every single game that you play. That's my take, just to get a 1 seed, because they don't deserve it. Because you'd think a 1 seed could get to the Final Four at least once. I mean, Gonzaga did it. They lost the national championship game, right? But he can't get over the hump.
So here's the thing. With you saying that, though, there's been a lot of outcry that Florida Atlantic, which, we were just talking about, they're a 9 seed, but they went 28-3 in the regular season. They're now 34-3 on the entire season. People are saying this is not a 9 seed. How do you give a team that had the second best record in America a 9 seed? And like you were just saying, the one team that had a better regular season record than was Houston. So Houston, I want to say they were 29-3 in the regular season. They get a 1 seed. Florida Atlantic is 28-3. They get a 9 seed. And so it's like, does Houston need to come down and Florida Atlantic needs to go up? Do they need to meet in the middle?
I think Florida Atlantic seeded appropriately, because nobody expected Florida Atlantic to do anything, and they play a really bad schedule in Conference USA. Like, that's Americans here. Conference USA is even lower. So I think they were seeded appropriately. I think Houston was seeded too high. I would have put Houston in that 4 or 5 seed range, because they did have a great season. They've been known to dominate teams. They've made runs in the past. FAU, I think, seeded appropriately. They beat Conference USA teams. Now they're showing up right now, don't get me wrong, but it's still, they played in Conference USA.
Yep, that is true. Now let's go on over to our last game from the Elite Eight. This was my favorite game to watch because it was so exciting. The degree of difficulty of the shot making. I know there were a lot of points, but the defensive intensity, the way that both teams were running up and down the court. We had comebacks. We had hot streaks for teams. We had cold streaks. We had coaching showdowns. Thought this game really had it all. I'm talking about Miami beating Texas 88-81. The Hurricanes rallied from 13 down in the second half. And let me tell you how they did it. Houston, Texas was doing a phenomenal job at defending the three-point line. Some point in the second half, I want to say it was about halfway, Miami had taken 5 threes the entire game. They had taken 25 in the round prior, and they'd shot 40+% from the field. So Texas knew that this is a Miami team that we've talked about their offensive decision-making and their inefficiencies, but we know they can make shots. And when they do make the shots, they tend to make more. They heat up in a hurry. So Texas was saying none of that is going to happen. What Miami started doing was they would put one guy in the corner. They would have other 2 or 3 just floating somewhere around the perimeter, just wherever. They would give the ball to Yordan Miller kind of halfway between the top of the key and the corner and say, just clear out. He's just going to drive, and we're not even going to move. We're not going to cut. We're just going to stand still, and we're going to let him collapse the defense because they're leaving it so exposed. And Yordan Miller did a great job of doing it. He was flawless in this game, literally 27 points, 7 of 7 from the field, 13 of 13 from the free throw line. Once he was able to get ahead of steam and start going downhill, he's very crafty around the basket. He's already 6'7", but he has a 7-foot wingspan, so he can get up shots that defenders can't block. He was drawing a ton of fouls. I think what he was able to do, first of all, not only just getting points on the board, but all those free throws were taking the rhythm out of Texas's offense. He was able to do an awful lot for this team. Then we know Isaiah Wong started pouring it on, brought him back. Miller goes to the game or the free throw line later in the game, pretty much ices it. I think Miami deserved to win that game because of the coaching adjustments and how they handled the pressure from Texas, because the Longhorns jumped on them early and they were resilient. They held through it.
With 10:50 to go, Texas had a 96% chance to win, according to ESPN. So that says everything you need to know. In my belief, if you have a 96% chance to win a basketball game and you end up losing that basketball game, it's almost on you as much as it is on the team for making their shots and coming back. But Yordan Miller was sensational. He was great, like you said. Miami did things that Texas didn't adjust to, and credit to them for that. And then Isaiah Wong, who I think he had 2 points in the first half, he was horrendous. He stepped up big in the second half. He just didn't take many shots. He got more aggressive. And when those two were playing in harmony, combined with the whole other crew, Miami's a good basketball team, and they were relentless on defense. Like I said, Grant, we've had this talk, right? Everyone says Miami's not good at defense. When Miami wants to be good at defense, they can be good at defense, and they showed it in the second half. Texas was absolutely flustered when they weren't making shots. They had no grit. They couldn't respond, and Miami just outran them up the floor.
Tanner, I don't know if this was a blind luck or a stroke of genius out of you, but I'm going to give you some numbers here. Miami was 198th in defensive rating in the regular season. They were 107th in adjusted defensive rating on Ken Palm. But in this tournament, they have clamped down. Opponents are shooting 41% from the field and 32% from three. When you have an offense like Miami's that has scored 85 plus points in the last 3 games, that's going to work. It doesn't take a ton of defense to win games in which you're scoring 85 plus. If those shooting splits are at 41 and 32, you're going to win games.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Miami's played really well on defense. It's been fun to watch. And that's what I'm saying the whole time. Like throughout the entire tournament, they've been good on defense. So our last show, when I said Miami can play defense and people freaked out over it, I'm just going off what I see. I'm just an unbiased journalist. That's what I am, quite frankly. I'm here to tell the people what's going to happen, and I called it exactly what it was. Miami with the points.
And Tanner, that's not because people want the picks.
They need the picks, and that's why we're getting into the picks right now, and we're starting with the mid-major Super Bowl. Grant, are you ready to talk about the mid-major Super Bowl?
Tanner, not only am I ready, I'm riding. Are you going first, or you want me to give my pick?
No, let me intro the game a little bit because we need a clip for social media, obviously. FAU versus San Diego State, mid-major Super Bowl. What world are we living in 2023 that we have Conference USA versus the Mountain West for a chance to go to the national championship game? It's preposterous to me. It's crazy, but it's happening, so we might as well embrace it. And quite frankly, I don't have much of a lean on this game. It's very tough to pick because you got FAU, who's very offensive-oriented. They can play defense. They're a much more balanced team. San Diego State, they are tremendous on defense. They're physical, but scoring-wise, they don't get it going a whole lot. They made their mid-range jumpers, obviously, in the Elite Eight to get here, but still, they're not an offensive team. So you need to pick what means more, defense or balance. I'm going to ride with defense here, Grant. I'm going to ride with the defense. I think the physicality of San Diego State is going to neutralize Vladislav Golden to a point where FAU is going to really struggle to get the ball in the paint, and that is going to be their downfall. I'm going to lay the points here. Do I feel great about it? Not really. I'm going to be honest with you, because I think this is a mid-major Super Bowl. Nobody expected this to happen, and these teams are very even.
Florida Atlantic is the kid that was picked last at the playground every time they went outside for recess in elementary school, and then they get to middle school and high school and they start dominating the varsity basketball league. Because Florida Atlantic, they're good. They're really good. Again, Tanner, I know you have concerns about strength of record or strength of schedule, but it takes hard work, determination, winning mentality, ability to execute, all of the above to go 34-3. They win over 10 games for every game that they lose. They have so much balance. That's the key for this Florida Atlantic team, that the word you just said, balance. Guys 1 through 9 are all legitimate threats to score the basketball. You can't blitz, you can't double, you can't shade, you can't do anything, because if you rotate or help off of someone else on Florida Atlantic, that guy is going to make a shot. And if they miss it, guess what? They've got a 7'1" center who just had 13 rebounds and dominated Kansas State in the middle. I am taking Florida Atlantic in this game. This is the first time in the entire tournament that I've picked them to win, aside from the opening round against Memphis, which, by the way, coincidentally, their closest game of the tournament. They hit a game-winning layup with 2 seconds left to win that game by 1 point. And now here they are, a team that had never won a game in March Madness, a team that only been to March Madness one time before. They are 1 win away from going to the national championship, and I think they're going to do it. I'm going with the Owls. Who?
Don't do that. You're not riding.
This isn't even, do owls flap their wings? What do they do?
They coo. They like coo. I don't know. Grant, that's not riding. Get out of here with that.
This is going on. This is the clip, Tanner. This is the social media clip.
I will not make that. As the social media director, I will not put that in a clip. No. There's a chance I switch my pick for this game. I'm gonna be honest, like, not because of what Grant just said, because Grant lost me a lot of money last weekend. But
I'll stop right there. Stop right.
You said if you said to go heavy on one game, I trust Kansas State over UConn. Blah blah blah. Okay. Anyways,
I went 7 of 8 in the Sweet 16, and I went 2 of 4 in the Elite 8. We're not going to act like I'm terrible at gambling.
I said I got one heavy bet, Grant. What do you think, Kansas State or UConn? And you're like,
when did we have this? I don't remember having this conversation.
I'll throw them up on the screen. I'll throw the text messages up on the screen. But anyways, I might switch my pick for this game because I'm still not like super confident in San Diego State right now. I think defense matters. I'm going to wait to lock this one in, because depending on how the points fluctuate, like if I got 2.5 with FAU, which I don't think I'm going to get, I might ride with them. If San Diego State went down to like -1, maybe I'll go there. So that I'm still fluctuating back and forth. Right now, I'm on San Diego State. Every podcast I've been on, I've prefaced that like I'm on San Diego State, but that could change just because this is the mid-major Super Bowl and there's no lean. But I do have one lean in the next game. It's Miami versus UConn, and the UConn Huskies are absolutely going to embarrass the Miami Hurricanes.
So you're laying the full 5.5 here.
I probably will. The juice is a little high for the money line. I don't trust Miami. The way UConn's been playing. I think UConn's going to roll.
Yeah, it's a difficult spot to be in as a bettor, because UConn, like we were talking about earlier, they've won every game by at least 15 points, and that still doesn't even really do it justice, because if you take out their 15-point win, all the others were by at least 23. They have been the most impressive team in the tournament. It's not even close. But Miami, they have shown more ability to fight back than any other team in this competition, and the offensive talent they have, the individual skill and shot creation / shot making ability ensure that they're never out of the game. I know I was singing Jordan Miller's praises because he had 13 first half points. So let's not act like he wasn't there the entire game. But in that second half, he helped drive them back. But then it was Isaiah Wong who was scoring in the half court, who was pulling up for threes in transition. He was the one that was getting him in this game. And what I think UConn is going to do in this game, UConn loves to speed it up on offense, and they love to slow it down on defense. It's a very interesting style to watch if you haven't seen them play. So if Miami does not succeed in scoring in transition, by the way, they do have a good chance. They're top 30 in the nation in fast break points. So that's going to be a situation to monitor. But if Miami is forced to operate in that half court, I think you're going to see an awful lot of Isaiah Wong and Najee Pack going into isolation, trying to go 1-on-5 basically, because they can do it. And at that point, it's just going to come down to, are the shots falling or not? The individual matchup that I'm watching, Jordan Miller versus Jordan Hawkins. Now, Hawkins, he is the second leading scorer on UConn, giving you about 16 a game, shooting nearly 39% from three. He's one of those guys where if he makes his first three, he's going to hit 4 in a row most likely, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's going to be the blink of an eye. The game's going to be out of reach, and it's done. What Jordan Miller is going to have to do to counteract that is if they are able to run in transition, he's going to have to use his length and athleticism to carve up the UConn defense, because UConn is tall, they're rangy, they're athletic. Miami's shorter in the backcourts. They're going to be at a disadvantage there. Miller's the one guy who can match up for them. Now, Miller's also their best defender, but I don't expect him to start on Hawkins because of the way the matchups shake out. I think you might have to put him somewhere else, but I would not be surprised at all to see him get switched onto Hawkins if he starts going off. And at that point, really, it's just going to be which one outwits the other, because UConn has so many advantages in key metrics. I don't know about you, Tanner, but there are certain statistics that I look for as indicators, not just of how good is a team, but of actual tournament success. Those are free throw percentage, offensive rebounding, and assist to turnover ratio. Mostly UConn, some of the best in the nation in all three of those. I think they win this game, but the full 5.5 makes me pretty scared. I wouldn't be opposed to betting maybe an alternate line of like 2.5 if you can still get that for somewhere around 180, 170. But the full 5.5, I'm probably going to fade, even though I think UConn wins.
I think that UConn can run the floor with Miami if they want to, if they need to. And they can also out physical them, and they can turn this into a half court game instead of one where they have to run the floor. You look at the Gonzaga game, they played their pace of basketball, and Gonzaga could not adjust to it. I think that's the same thing that happens. I think this game will be tight for a while. It's the Final Four. There's going to be nerves, but UConn does wear them out in the end. And if I had to pick one side, and I think it's going to be tight, I would rather lay the points with UConn than take the points based on what we've seen in the NCAA tournament right now. It may come down to free throws, but like you said, UConn's very efficient at shooting those free throws, and I think that pushes them over and gets them to the cover in this spot. Just because it's the Final Four doesn't mean you need to change how you bet it. That's my take. UConn 5.5. This game was during the regular season, and both these teams were playing the same exact way. I would bet the Huskies.
Betting the Huskies. That's what we are both going to do. That was 35 minutes on the Final Four. I didn't expect that, but that was good. I honestly, sometimes it's good for us to just talk it out and see what each other is thinking going into these games. It's helpful to, like, some people, you know, they like writing down their notes on paper when they're in class or whatever, because it sticks into your memory more. I feel like it's sort of the same thing here with us.
Yeah, definitely. And if you guys want more information on what we're taking, we both wrote articles. I wrote the FAU, SDSU Preview. Grant wrote Miami, UConn. So those will be up on WSN. Make sure you follow, subscribe to the page. We got a lot more here on the show, but follow, share, subscribe, like, do it all. Head over to WSN. Get your sportsbook promos, DraftKings, FanDuel, Caesars, BetMGM, PointsBet. Every one of them is on our website. So make sure you check them out. Grant, it's baseball season.
It is baseball season, Tanner. It is, well, not quite, but it's almost baseball season, which is your favorite time of the year. So you're going to be the star of this segment. Why don't you lead us in with your favorite future bet in Major League Baseball? This can be anything. This could be a division winner, World Series winner, MVP. What do you have for us?
So I like a few future bets. There's a few that I really like. Now, one's not great odds, but it's a win total. I'm going to take the Boston Red Sox over 78.5 wins, Grant.
What happened to an unbiased journalist just recently? You're betting on the Sox again.
Grant, did you know an underdog's a hungry dog, and hungry dogs run faster? And the Red Sox are starving. They're not just hungry. They are starving. And that's why
they're starving for a reason, Tanner. Their owner left them on the side of the road.
No, they're going to win over 78.5 games this year, Grant, because, you ready for this? Number one, division games, they're smaller now. You only get 13, so you don't have to go through the brutal AL East. You can go play the AL Central and just whoop those teams' ass into submission. The Boston Red Sox, number two, have a massive chip on their shoulder. It's a rock. It's a boulder, and it's on their shoulder right now, and that is why they remind me of the 2021 Red Sox, which was 2 wins away from the World Series, Grant. Don't forget that. Number three, Masataka Yoshida. The man is a baller. He hit freaking 500 in the World Baseball Classic. He had multiple home runs. He was that guy for Japan outside of Shohei Ohtani. Number four, Tristan Casas. Casas, he's going to be the rookie of the year this year. He's that good. He's hitting absolute nukes, and we finally have a first baseman instead of Bobby Dahlbeck. Number five, Kike Hernandez. Absolute team leader, absolute stud. Number six, Alex Verdugo. He's the man. He is the heart and soul of the Boston Red Sox. Number seven, we have a closer now in Kenley Jansen. We have a better back end of the bullpen, and we can bring those guys that were in the bullpen last year into the rotation. Now, Corey Kluber is the game one starter, which is very concerning because the man's like 60 years old, and he's had Tommy John 17 times in his career. So I am a little concerned about that. But with that being said, Boston Red Sox over 78.5 wins. Book it right now on DraftKings Sportsbook. I have another fun fact, actually. This is the #1 most bet win total on DraftKings right now. So don't forget that too.
Tanner, I don't know if you've heard this, but sometimes it's good to fade the public. Normally the odds makers know what they're doing.
I mean, it's not fade the public. I mean, it's just you're picking over or under. This Red Sox team you're telling me this Boston Red Sox team isn't going to be a 500 team. This is a 500 team. They're better than the Orioles, quite frankly. I think they did some things in the offseason. Just because they let Xander Bogaerts go doesn't mean they didn't get better. And then you look at the bottom of the division. Well, I guess they are in the bottom with the Rays and the Orioles, but I don't think the Rays are going to be there either. I think the Rays lost too many people. Wander Franco's already battling an injury. They have some good pitching. It's the Rays, but Boston Red Sox win 78.5 wins. If they got to go through the AL Central to do it, they're going to do it.
Well, I mean, it's not just Xander Bogaerts that's gone. It's also JD Martinez. That's 2 of your 3 best players from the last year.
JD didn't do anything. Get JD out of here. Now, it would have been good for JD to finish his career with Boston, but JD, we can lose JD. You can bring up Casas. It's fine. I think I'm very excited about the new era of Boston Red Sox baseball. We finally have gotten rid of everyone on the World Series team. Now, I'd like to have Xander back. I would, but still, we've gotten rid of people that were on the World Series team. It's a new era. We have Rafael Devers. The man just hits freaking nukes all day and loves playing baseball for Boston. We're going to be fine. 78.5 wins, easy money.
I will say, even though I don't have a ton of long-term faith in the Red Sox, 78.5 seems low. Kenley Jansen coming out of the bullpen, that's good. The 1-2 punch of Corey Kluber and Chris Sale. I mean, should we have the hospital on standby? Should we have them on speed dial? That's something to be concerned about. Huh?
Sale's dealing right now, actually. In spring training, he was dealing.
Yeah, he's dealing until he tears his elbow.
No, he'll be fine. He got hit on his bike last time.
Look, the Red Sox, again, I'm not picking them to win the World Series, but 78.5 is low. As much as I want to crack on you, I don't think that's a terrible pick out of you. I'll give you a pick that I like because I know you've got a couple, so I'm going to spruce mine in here. I think the Guardians to win the AL Central is a very appealing futures bet. Now, I got these odds from FanDuel Sportsbook. If you want to get yourself a FanDuel promo code, you again head over to WSN. It's the same sort of deal, except up to $1,000. If your first bet misses up to $1,000, you can win it back in the form of bet credits. If you go to FanDuel and you look at the AL Central odds, you'll see the Guardians at the top of the list at +115. Now, there's only one other division in baseball in which the suspected division winner has plus money odds. That's the New York Yankees at, what are they, +130. So you're getting not quite unmatched, but still very good value for this division winner. They're statistically, or at least in the odds makers' eyes, most likely to win this division. And there's also just real reason to pick them. I mean, you have Jose Ramirez on this team. This is an MVP candidate. The emergence of Andre Jimenez, if he can carry that into this season, that's a real viable 1-2 punch that can carry the team. They don't have the strongest overall lineup. They're a little weak at the back end of the order, but you've got guys down there like Josh Naylor. We know how energizing he can be for a team. Shane Bieber, he's your ace. He's sort of a fringe perennial Cy Young candidate. He had 2.88 ERA. Maybe he can, if he lowers that into the low 2s, then this team becomes something serious. But above all, the AL Central just kind of stinks. The Minnesota Twins, I think they had a good offseason. I think they overpaid for Carlos Correa, but hey, they went ahead and got him. They traded for Pablo Lopez. They signed Joey Gallo and Christian Vasquez. It's moves to make your team better, absolutely, but I still don't think they're better than the Guardians. And another thing that's good for the Guardians is, according to Keith Law of The Athletic, they have the #2 farm system. If they're able to promote some guys, get them into the regular lineup, and see them develop over the course of the season, I think this is a bet that could cash. And again, you're getting it for plus money.
Joey Gallo literally can't see the baseball when it's coming at him. So I don't think Joey Gallo is a Gold Glove outfielder, but he literally cannot see a baseball when he's at the plate. Christian Vasquez, good signing. Again, the Guardians will probably win this division with like 82 wins, which is not impressive at all. So this is just the dog water division of the American League. Both Centrals are not good. Like, the Centrals are never good. It's like someone's got to figure it out. Someone's got to make the AL Central, make the AL Central and the NL Central great again. That's what I think, Grant.
You know what it is, though, Tanner? And I think you see this in a lot of sports. And it's a little different in the NFL right now because of the Chiefs' dominance, but the Chiefs drafted Patrick Mahomes. So you kind of got to take that out of the equation. As players move around, they want to go either to the East Coast or the West Coast because that's where the attractive and alluring cities are. And that also applies to general managers. General managers want to be in good situations that they like. Again, most of those are on the coast. So if you've got a good general manager over there and players are already inclined to go there, that's kind of why the talent in the middle of the country in a lot of sports just ends up in different places. And again, it's different for the Chiefs because they drafted Mahomes. It's different for the Milwaukee Bucks because they drafted Giannis Antetokounmpo. But more times than not, you're going to find more contenders on the coast than in the middle of the country.
Well, there's more big markets. Like Chicago is the one big market in the central divisions, and they've just been struggling. The White Sox aren't going to be good this year. The Cubs, I like what they did in the offseason, but I still don't think they're going to be a serious contender by any means. I just love Cody Bellinger, honestly. But anyways, let me keep going here. Padres to win the National League. We'll make this quick because we do have NBA to talk about. 5-1 right now. This Padres team is loaded. I mean, loaded. Juan Soto. Love Juan Soto. Xander Bogaerts. Fernando Tatis, and Manny Machado. Like, that lineup is so disgusting right there, just off those 4 batters alone. It's crazy. They're not balanced, I would say, in the back end of the lineup, but they can still hit. And then their pitching staff is really good. The bullpen is, I mean, I'm not even that concerned about the bullpen. I still think the bullpen's got some good arms in it. But starting pitching wise in that core 4, those guys can really deliver for you. I love the Padres this year, especially with the Dodgers, not necessarily taking a step back, but we're getting into like a new era a little bit of Dodger baseball. This team is not the same team that we've seen in the past. You're not going to have Walker Buehler right away, obviously. Clayton Kershaw is still your opening day starter. Julio Urias is going to be the opening day starter, but Clayton Kershaw still in the rotation. His time as the Dodgers coming to an end. So I think this is a good point for the Padres to start taking over that division, especially with the Giants still being that middle team. So I like them at 5-1 to win the National League.
Did you even mention Tatis when you were going through your list there?
I did. I mentioned Tatis.
Oh, okay.
He was in the core 4. And honestly, I don't have any faith in Tatis because the man just juiced and he hasn't played baseball for 200 games, or whatever the hell it is. So I don't have, like, a lot of people are taking Tatis to win the NL MVP. I don't see it as much because I need to see what he does on the field. And he's still going to miss the first month of the season with the suspension. I could be wrong about that, but I think it's about a month.
Yeah, I wouldn't pick him to win MVP. I just thought you hadn't said him. I thought you had said Machado, Bogarts, and Soto and just omitted Tatis. And I was going to say, that's one hell of a guy to have as the 4th option.
Yeah, I said the core 4. So, Grant, who wins the National League?
Who wins the National League? Tanner, I know we're going into this new era of Dodgers baseball and everything, right? But there's just something to be said for the reputation and the prestige of an organization when they have that sort of organizational excellence. It's a lot like the Golden State Warriors almost. People thought they were finished last year and then they won the NBA Finals, right? So could I see the Padres winning it? 100%, absolutely. But for me, I think the safe pick is still the Dodgers. I think they just got winning roots, so I'm going to stick with the Dodgers.
All right, I like it. My final play here, love this one. Yordan Alvarez, a 25-year-old that absolutely shits on baseballs, to lead the league in home runs, lead the whole baseball in home runs. Yordan Alvarez, who shits on baseballs, to lead baseball in homers. Aaron Judge, Kyle Schwarber, Mike Trout, Pete Alonso, and Vladimir Guerrero are his competition. Yordan Alvarez is 25 years old. He hit 37 nukes last year. He was 6 in baseball. He's not even close to his prime years of MLB, and he hit 37 bombs last year. I do think Aaron Judge regresses a little bit from his big home run season. Obviously, he's not going to set a record again. He's not going to hit 60-plus again. It's just not going to happen. I see Yordan Alvarez delivering. It's a great spot for great odds at plus 1,100.
Yeah, 100% with the Aaron Judge thing. That's just not going to happen again. Not because he's not a great player, but because those historic seasons, they just don't happen in consecutive years. Looking at the list of odds, Mike Trout is second. Is he going to be able to be healthy? Is he going to go through those slumps? You remember he started the year incredibly hot last year, and then he tailed off in the middle and the end of the season. So you've got that going for you. Pete Alonso, we both love him, especially when it comes to the home run derby, because he's such a pure home run hitter. But with the way that Alvarez's trajectory is going, the way that his career is headed, I don't think that's a bad bet at all for 10-1. I mean, he's 4th in the odds in what I'm looking at right now. I think that's definitely a viable bet.
Yeah, and I love Vladdy too, but I see Yordan has a little more pop to the bat than Vladdy. So that's what we're riding with for baseball, Grant. We have a few minutes left here to talk about the NBA, and we'll be talking about the NBA a lot down the stretch. So a few minutes, Grant.
A
Big
few
NBA.
minutes, and a few important minutes for the Eastern Conference, especially because the Boston Celtics, we were on this show. I was mostly leading the charge saying the 76ers were going to overtake them and get the second seed. You weren't fully on board, but I think that might have been some of the Boston loyalty just hanging on to you. But the Philadelphia 76ers, they blew it. They've lost 3 games in a row now. Joel Embiid just sat out an MVP head-to-head matchup against Nikola Jokic as his team lost. Tyrese Maxey was awesome in the first half at 25 points, but had 4 in the second half. And the Boston Celtics are now 3 games clear of the Sixers with 6 or 7 games left in the regular season. That's an insurmountable gap. Boston is going to get the 2 seed. That's especially important because they are 28-9 at home. If you're the Sixers and you struggle with the Celtics historically, you need all the advantages you can get. Now, if you go to a game 7, it's in TD Garden. I don't like what this has done to them. Credit to Boston for turning their season not around, but turning that sort of slump around, winning some games, and credit to Jason Tatum for being a star during those games.
Oh, did you know why the Celtics weren't going to blow a lead to the Sixers, Grant?
Why is that?
Because Jason Tatum has a massive,
oh my gosh,
massive, huge,
is that what sources close to the situation have informed you?
What?
Is that what sources?
Yes.
Is that what sources close to the situation have informed you?
Been investigated many times, and it's true. Like people are just blown away with the size, enormous.
That explains how Boston got to the finals last year then, right? All on the strength of that.
Yeah, that just Jason Tatum's massive.
He just overpowered everybody in his way. There was too much pushback for them.
Yeah, he rolled through the Eastern Conference. Giannis?
Yeah, Giannis is going to be working with something. Don't disrespect him like that.
Jason Tatum has a massive.
You heard what Giannis said on Instagram Live, Tanner. They don't call him the Greek Freak for nothing.
There you go. I love the NBA. That's why I love the NBA, just because it's all about their.
So it's all about who's got it. Who's got it quite literally.
Who's got
metaphorically and literally.
Celtics will be fine, Grant. Celtics will be fine. We'll beat the Bucks in Milwaukee in Game 7. I'm not concerned. I mean, it's the C's. Grant, you know why the Celtics are going to win?
Don't say it.
Because the Celtics are the balls. Jason Tatum has a huge.
All right, we're gonna leave Boston. We're gonna leave Boston, Philadelphia right there, and I don't know if we're ever gonna talk about them again. The Dallas Mavericks have lost 2 straight.
The Mavericks.
Oh, I can't focus. the Dallas Mavericks. Taylor, shut up.
All right.
Dallas Mavericks lost 2 straight games to the Charlotte Hornets and are 7-13 since acquiring Kyrie Irving. They have fallen to 11th place in the Western Conference. Tanner, what does this say about the state of Dallas, and what does it say about the state of Luka Doncic's?
Luka Doncic is not hung. That's what the state of Luka Doncic is. The Mavericks really need to get it together, honestly, because everyone thought, like we were talking on this show, I think, about them being like a good future bet to win after they gave the Suns a run for their money with like the Suns bench players not contributing and Dallas like outscoring them on the bench. And then suddenly like Luka and Kyrie just didn't work out. Like it just wasn't a good marriage. Like they can put up numbers, but the team's not working out at all. Like the Mavericks sold their soul to get Kyrie. Hasn't worked out. I don't think believe me, I'm no GM here. I'm just measuring the size of, people's pants. And the fact of the matter is that they believe this Kyrie trade would work out. Like there was a much higher chance of it not working than it working, in my opinion. Luka got you to the damn Western Conference Finals last year. They sold their soul just to bring Kyrie in. And what makes you think Kyrie's going to help you?
Yeah, I didn't like it either because Dallas, this is the thing. Maybe last year I might have liked it because Dallas was top 10 in defense and they could have afforded it, but they were one of the worst defensive teams in the league and they always got crushed on the offensive glass. And then you traded away Dorian Finney-Smith, who is a crucial component to your rebounding and defensive part of the team. Spencer Dinwiddie, he's a little more replaceable, but he's a secondary ball handler who doesn't mind spending time off the ball. You bring in Kyrie when you already have a Kyrie. They play the same. They're isolation scorers. Luka might facilitate a little more, and Kyrie might shoot a little more efficiently from outside, but they want to play the same way. So when one of them has the ball, the other one's just standing to the side waiting, and on the other end, they're not playing defense as well. And even when we go back to being on offense, they're not cutting like Dorian Finney-Smith was. They're not crashing the offensive glass. It didn't make sense. And I held out some sort of optimism that they would still be a top 6 seed. I think they were the 4th or the 5th seed when they made the trade. And now all of a sudden they're the 11th. They might not even make the play-in. It's a very strange situation because Dallas made it to the Western Conference Finals last year. And in an expanded postseason, they're probably still not going to make it in. So very strange. The last NBA story that we're going to talk about, Patrick Beverley, former Los Angeles Laker, two smalls LeBron James on a play in which LeBron wasn't really guarding him and Patrick Beverley didn't take it inside. He did a mid-range turnaround shot and still told LeBron he was too small. This is such a hateable person in the NBA, but beyond that, the Lakers, they have now fallen again. The Lakers are in 12th at 1 minute, and then they're 6th in the next. I can't keep up with what's going on. They're 9th in the standings right now. They get to play Boston. Gosh, they get to play the Bulls again on the road in Chicago on Wednesday. The Western Conference is so crowded. There's 2 games separating seeds 6 through 11. At this point, I don't think there's any point in predicting which team is going to end up where. There's just chaos.
Yeah, I mean, the Patrick Beverley moment was great, though. I thought that was very entertaining. Like, it's good for basketball. That's what it is. It just makes him look stupid. But like you said about Patrick Beverley, I think beginning of the show or on a different show we were doing, like, you want to be teammates with Patrick Beverley. You don't want to play against him. And he has quickly turned from a Laker to a Bull. He
said he wants to knock the Lakers out of the playoffs.
Yeah, can you blame him? You can't blame him.
I mean, yeah, I can. He was the worst player in the NBA for the first half of the year. He's the reason they're not going to make the playoffs if that's what ends up happening. The Lakers started 2-10. What is their record right now? I'm 37-38. I'm pulling that out of my ass, but we're just going to say they're 37-38. That means that they're 35-28 since they got rid of that terrible start. That start was all Patrick Beverley's fault. He was shooting less than 20% from the field. If he wants to knock the Lakers out of the playoffs, he needs to get a trade back into Los Angeles so he can put on a Lakers uniform again, and then he just needs to go play basketball like he normally does, because that's what was holding the Lakers out of the playoffs.
I like Patrick Beverley. If you're not a Patrick Beverley fan, you're not American. That's what I think. He's the American dream. Quite frankly,
no, the American dream is annoying. I don't want the American dream.
He's gonna knock the Lakers out of the playoffs, Grant. Get ready for it. It's coming.
They're not even in the same conference. He can't knock them out. I just don't understand Patrick Beverley. I hate this guy. I don't want to talk about him anymore.
No, you know what he means though? This is what he means. He means whoop them on Wednesday so the Lakers continue to fall and don't get the play in.
Yeah, well, I mean, he can. Are the Bulls even going to make the playoffs right now?
I don't know. I haven't looked. All I know is the Eastern Conference. I don't really classify that as a race because it's all about the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, I did on my personal show. I ranked the top 10 NBA Finals contenders. My top 3 teams, all from the Eastern Conference: Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Boston. And my next 7 were all from the Western Conference. Like, there is no hope of any of the other teams aside from the top 3 getting out of the Eastern Conference and then winning the NBA Finals. So there's just no point in talking about them.
I totally agree, Grant, and that's why the show's over.
That's why the show is over.
That's why we're done riding for the day.
Well, I don't know. Depending on where Jason Tatum is at.
Jason Tatum, if you want to come on the pod, hit me up at Tanner Kern on Instagram.
Jason Tatum, if you're a rider, if you're part of Rider Nation, please drop a comment. Let us know. That was just about an hour of the most electric sports show in the business, in the entire freaking world. Ride the Line, sponsored by WSN. Tanner and I both appreciate you tuning in. If you want to keep up with what we are betting on, some insights, some analytics, just some general information, whatever it may be, you can follow me on Twitter at Mile Mitchell, mile like the distance, 5,280 feet, and on TikTok at sports.g.g. You can follow Tanner on TikTok and Instagram at Tanner Kern, and on Twitter at Tanner Kern _. Tanner, why don't you tell the people what they've got to do until the next episode?
You got to like, subscribe, and share this episode of WSN, or you will lose all your bets this coming week.
I think that sounds pretty good. I think that's pretty motivating. Go ahead, smash the subscribe button. Tanner took issue with me last week when I said hit it. So you got to smash it. You got to break your screen. Make sure it gets through. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you on the very next episode of Ride the Line.